G'day everybody and welcome to the event. My name's Mark Sparvell. I'm from Microsoft Education and it's my great pleasure and honour to spend about 15 minutes talking to you about this curious convergence we have at the moment with AI and also with emotional intelligence. And I've framed this up as a conversation around the power of possible. It's interesting. I've called this the age of conversation. In education, we often hear about the age of AI, and that's curious to me that we've placed technology before teaching and learning. I don't remember us saying it was the age of the photocopier. I don't remember us saying it was the age of the slide projector in education or the age of the radio. So instead of calling this the age of AI, I'm calling this the age of conversation. I hope you enjoy the next 15 minutes. By way of a little bit more of an introduction, speaking of convergences, I've got, I guess, a couple of areas of interest that I'd like to share with you this morning with some stories from around the world where AI is being used thoughtfully to improve student learning. I'm an ambassador for the Emotional Intelligence Society. I lead a group on Facebook, Cell in Edu, which has over 35,000 educators focused purely on social and emotional learning, a founding member of the Karanga Global Cell Alliance and the Global Anti-Bullying Foundation, Power of Zero. I'm the author of the book, Good Brain, Bad Brain. You can't believe everything you think. So I've got this interest in emotional intelligence. I've got this interest in how do we develop good people for the future. Yet at the same time, I do a lot of talking around the globe around the potential that AI has to help us humanize learning, to help us develop in young people the critical skills that they need, not just to survive, but to flourish in an AI-powered economy. And you can see from the last couple of years, there's been a huge interest in this conversion between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And as you can see, the EdHeroes Global Forum is proudly sitting there at this slide. That's why I'm so happy to be here today speaking with you. Let's start off right at the top by looking at the Work Trends Index at the critical skills required for an AI-powered future. Here's something that you'll notice when you look at these: analytical judgment, cognitive flexibility, emotional intelligence, creative evaluation, and intellectual curiosity. The first 5 are profoundly human skills and qualities and dispositions. The last couple are very much technical: the ability to identify and act upon bias and the ability to be able to manage the work of something else, an AI assistant, AI delegation. But the first 5 critical skills to thrive are very human skills. So how do we develop those? That's coming up in a few moments. Here's one comment that I would make about the emotional intelligence piece that we just looked at there. That's sitting there at number 5. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate our emotions and the emotions of others. I could ask the audience here, what are some of the emotions people on this screen are feeling at the moment? And you'd probably take a reasonably accurate kind of guess based upon what you see and what you know. And we'd all be wrong. These are all fakes. They're not AI generated, but they're all actors pretending to feel something for a photo shoot. Nobody is really feeling their genuine emotions in these pictures. So how do we get better at that? That's the development of emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize our own emotions and the emotions of others and be able to make choices to navigate those for positive and productive outcomes. That's a very uniquely human characteristic, and it's critical in this age of AI. Technology has always been around in the classroom. I've been in education now 32 years. I began as a classroom teacher, a deputy, the technology coordinator, the principal, the director, an academic at university, working for a professional association, building capacity for school leadership across Southeast Asia. And along that long journey, technology has always been a part. Now, I didn't begin teaching in the 1920s, but that was when the radio was introduced, and then the slide projector, the overhead projector, all the way through to interactive whiteboards, the arrival of computers, ultimately the arrival of learning management systems, one-to-one devices, all the way through until the introduction of AI into education. What's interesting to note on this slide, though, is how the technology was being used. In the past, the technology was largely focused on transmission at scale, getting information out to more people more effectively. The relationship with technology has fundamentally changed with the arrival of AI. This is not just another piece of technology. It's a general purpose technology capable of doing so much more. When the calculator arrived and caused controversy in classrooms, it had one function: to calculate. That's what I mean by general purpose technology. AI can do so much more. Here's what I think is the big shift. We've shifted from creating, saving, retrieving, and sharing information and documents, whether it's data or words. We've shifted from documents to dialogue, because we're now conversing with our technology using natural language. We're speaking with it. And AI, if you like, is like a reasoning engine sitting on top of both a large language model and also access to data from the internet, or in the case of Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, access to your data and information within your education system. But what's important? We've shifted our relationship from documents to dialogue, the age of conversation. Satya Nadella, a CEO, says for the first time we have access to AI that is empowering as it is powerful. So hold on to that word empowering, because it's important to us in Microsoft Education to help us navigate the complexity and the choices available in this age of conversation powered by AI. As I said, it's a general purpose technology capable of doing everything from translating to dialoguing to generating original content, whether it's music, code, images, text. So with this general purpose technology, what is the power of the possible? Some quick stories to share with you. This one published by the World Bank is interesting. It's in Nigeria. They undertook a controlled experiment with 600 secondary students, most of whom had never used a computer before. One group had access to Microsoft's AI, Copilot. The other group were just learning in traditional ways. And they undertook this pilot for 6 weeks. At the end of the 6 weeks, what did they discover? The students who had access to AI had shown up to 2 years academic improvement within 6 weeks. Not only that, the gap between boys and girls had closed. And interestingly, months and months after the pilot, the students who had had access to the AI tools continued to outperform those that didn't. The power of the possible was something about giving the students the confidence to be able to take risks, to tackle work that maybe they felt they couldn't work because they had something that they had their back, something that could explain to them, something that was, if you like, an endlessly patient tutor that could adapt to the work, the content, the challenge to find and meet them where their needs were and move them forwards. That was published by the World Bank, not a Microsoft publication, but using Microsoft Copilot. Here's another example from Clifton School, just outside of Belfast in Northern Ireland. It's a school for the profoundly disabled, students who have cognitive and physical disabilities. And for a long time, their imagination has been locked within their bodies. What's happening in this video, and you can scan that for more videos of the use of Copilot, what's happening in this video is that the student is using a picture board to identify a a illustration that they would like generated. In this case, a farm scene with sheep and a barn and clouds. The paraprofessional, the support teacher, is entering that as a prompt into Copilot and then generating the image. The student then gets to modify the prompt. I'd like to have a dog or a cat. I'd like to have a farmer in the field. Generates that image. It gets printed and projected. This is the first time ever those students have been able to get what they can imagine out into the real world for other people to see in a form that they're proud of. You can see that in the expression on the student's face. The teacher said to me, make no mistake, this is a game changer. This is the first time these students have been able to share what's in their mind. This is the power of the possible, not to cater for a disability, but to unlock the ability every child has, every person has, to imagine, to create, to do more, be more. That's the power of possible. It's also the power of possible is about being able to do harder, stretch beyond. This is not a race for a quick answer for students. This is an opportunity to extend learning, to become more rigorous. In this case, this was a clip from a video from, I think the school is called John's Secondary School. It's in Fulton County in the United States. And this is a quote that I grabbed from the video as the students were using Copilot to help program robots. It allows me to solve those harder problems, not skip to the easy solution. It allows me also to solve those harder problems. That's the power of possible. At Merivit School in Thailand, this student is using Power Buddy, which is developed by Power School and runs on Microsoft Azure OpenAI. And this is a tutoring interface, but it also keeps students redirected back onto task. So it knows when students have moved off from the task and are maybe searching for other things, or they're not doing anything, they've just been sitting or chatting. It knows and gently prompts them. It gets them back on task, keeps all students focused, increases time on task, and along the way provides that critical coaching and support. So point number 2, we need to be thinking about AI in education as a thought partner, not an answer engine, both for students, teachers, and administrators. A thought partner, something to bounce ideas off, to ideate, to create, to dialogue with, because this is the age of conversation. There's a lot of options out there. These are some of the apps available powered by AI at the moment, and they're incredible. They serve lots of different purposes for education, for administration, for learning design. But sometimes it can be hard to maintain focus around what it is that matters most. And we don't want to be caught in a loop of forever experimenting. In Microsoft, what we do, what we've heard from educators and education leaders across the globe, is that 3 big things they're curious about reimagining with AI. What does student success look like? The entire student journey. What does it look like in terms of skills, knowledge, dispositions? They're interested not in just doing faster and more efficiently. They're interested in innovating, doing different within the business of schools. And of course, they're deeply concerned about how they secure the learning environment. So you can only reimagine with AI at the speed of security. And that's a big topic for us in Microsoft, the world's largest cybersecurity company. We recognize that cybercrime is big business. It turns over $4 trillion a year, and education is the 3rd most targeted industry. That's why we match our commitments to providing safe, secure, and private environments with our capability to be able to deliver on that. Another comment that I just quickly make about Microsoft's approach is just the fact that accessibility is built in, not bolted on to everything we develop, from Windows 11 to Microsoft 365 to Copilot. And that's critical when we think about empowering every person and organization on the planet to do more. Let's talk about skills and dispositions and wrap up. People often ask me, what does the future of education look like? The future is about pairing the artificial intelligence of computers with the cognitive, the social, the emotional skills, the technical skills and values of humans. It's our imagination, our awareness, and a sense of responsibility that's going to allow us to lever this technology to help shape our world for the better. So in wrapping up, how do we lead forwards and how do we learn forwards? Here's one thing we know. We looked at the very start at the skills required to flourish. And often our classrooms in the past were focused on that knowledge transmission, remember, recall. And that wasn't terrible, but it possibly wouldn't help develop the skills required to flourish in the AI economy. And just adding technology also isn't going to solve that, because you can see this looks a lot like this. We know that learning is a profoundly social process. It's something best done together. And to develop the skills required to flourish in the AI-powered economy and society, we need to develop those skills highlighted at the top: intellectual curiosity, analytical judgment, emotional intelligence. And the way to develop those is to design learning that looks less like this and more like this, where technology, including AI, is part of the social learning environment, where students are designing and building solutions together to problems that matter to them. So at the start, I posed this topic around the power of possible. The greatest potential for technology in education, as I see it, is to humanize learning, not merely to digitize the experience and the content. We'll be providing you after this event with access to some incredible free resources to help get you started on your AI journey. But for now, a thank you to everything that you do each and every day to support learners across the globe. I know you're going to enjoy the other speakers in the session put on by EdHeroes. Thank you. Goodbye.